stage Srimati Deepa Tracy and Srimati Nisha Jamba, person, trailblazer of modern India and media advocacy. And over to you for that. Subject. If you can kindly settle down, please. Yeah. Let's start the next panel.
Please settle down. We have a fireside chat before the lunch.
The subject of the fireside chat is empowerment and education. Over to you, Meghaji.
Thank you. You both are like inspiration. Deepa ji coming from Mantra Fashion and multi other hats that she wears. I've been admiring her for a few years, right, over a period. At this age also, when I talk to her, is at this age also, and I don't want to reveal her age, but when I talk to her, there is so much of aspiration that I want to do this also, I want to do that also, I want to make. She recently registered an NBFC and now supporting livelihoods and low income women and men with easy loans and multiple other things. So it would be nice, it is welcoming to have you here. Similarly with Similarly with Nisha, when I was reading your bio and other things, there were so many words were coming like trailblazer, and which I have not even heard as a jargon because I don't actually come from the media field. So since you both belong to media also, talk about women empowerment also, and you have been change makers as well. So it's not a panel, just we would like to do some informal discussions. I was not a part of the last panel, but Nitin pulled me in and maybe many of my things have gone there. So I just asked Deepa ji to talk about how we as individuals can become change makers, how we as individuals can create a better world in India. Because as I yesterday said, in India the situation is still like that कि थोड़ा है, थोड़े की ज़रूरत है. जिंदगी फिर भी बहुत खूबसूरत है. So the journey has to be celebrated, and every day is important. But how do we make it celebration for all? Make it more inclusive, make it more equitable, make it more gender neutral. So how we can make this, at least our country, a better place?
I think actually our country is already a better place than most other countries. I come from the fashion business and have been in exports for almost 35-40 years. And my job has taken me to many countries. And I really feel that in India, women are definitely more privileged. I do agree with what some of the other earlier panelists talked about, women being suppressed in villages and in the smaller towns. I am not, sorry. I do agree that there is a lot of suppression at that level. You also talked about these women. Somebody talked about menstruation. Girls drop out of school. Dropped out of school. And I was working with an NGO that was working out of Palghar. Unfortunately, Needi Madam has left. But there are these schools there which have no toilets. There was a cyclone, the roof flew off, the toilets don't have doors. Under such circumstances, how can you expect your girls to continue working there, to continue to study there and come to school where they have no place, where they can go and change or do whatever they need to do. So I think that the need of the hour is for us as women to educate our women, our girls, and in cities, in urban areas, we are always asking, giving priority to the boys. I know a lot of families where boys are not required to do any work, girls have to do work. And I tried to change that with my own. I have only one daughter who has a son. I told her, your son should learn how to fold clothes, put them away, put his shoes away, It's not the sister's job to put issues away. And I think in our own way, as the privileged city dwellers, we should bring the change within us, from us down to our maids or whoever else is working with us.
What is your thought on that? Because though of course, I have worked so much in rural areas that I always find India and Bharat as two separate entities in my mind. But I know you both have also worked a lot in other part of this country and other part of the city. So what is your thought process? Where you see your role?
I see there's an underlying similarity. Women are women, firstly. And if anyone feels that the privileged women don't feel, suffer discrimination, I'd say that's wrong. When I came to India, I studied in LA. And when I came to India, I set up Nisha Jambal Design. And when I told my workers who had come from Rajasthan, ये ऐसे करना और ऐसे करना, they said, नहीं ये नहीं हो सकता है, उसको बुलाइए. So they asked me to call my assistant, who was a male. They were more keen to listen to his, though I was telling him I was his boss, but they were hardwired to only listen to him. So yes, I mean, if anyone feels that there's no discrimination, it's wrong. People who come from villages are hardwired to, there is chauvinism, there is patriarchy. Except for Kerala, we are a patriarchal society. And Meghalaya. We are a patriarchal society predominantly. But I think, since then, that was 25 years ago, to today, where you have that same ilk of laborers listening to you, working with you. You know what I did to change their view? I sat on the floor and I said, मैं बताती हूँ कैसे होता है. And I sat and I did the mosaic with them and put the cement with them and showed them, hey, this is how you do it. I know what I'm talking about. And they're with me until today because that level of respect that I have earned. So that brings me to my second point, which is very important. I see, you were talking about Alpha, Gen Z, Beta. I'm seeing a lot of focus on selfies, looks, appearances, rather than going deeper and, like Nidhi said, reading, studying, growing. Reading has become nearly obsolete, because everyone's on YouTube. So reading is what actually makes a person empowered, shows you self-advocacy. And until you have a voice and self-advocacy, empowerment is completely not there. I mean, how can there be empowerment unless a woman can speak for herself and ask for that roof in the bathroom, in the village, in the school? So I'm not at all, negating that being presentable, look good, buy your lipstick. I'm not in agreement with Nidhi that, being presentable or buying jewelry is a bad thing. Do that, but the first and foremost focus has to be about empowering oneself through skilling and education. And that brings me to another very important point, Megha, which is, the lady before me, Jyoti, spoke about education and skilling, even if you have to be a homemaker. Now there I have a slightly different point of view, because in a country where education, there's a paucity of seats and education, I feel I have no bias about homemakers. Definitely have your kids, be a homemaker. It's as respectable, position as a woman going out and working. But then, be very clear that you're taking a seat away from somebody who actually needs that seat, needs to perform, needs to earn, and needs to make a life for herself. So, basic education, college is very important. But when you're skilling somebody, when you're studying, when you're becoming a doctor or an engineer or a photographer, I think, empowerment also means about being a little self-reliant, about taking that education and doing something with it. And also, the males of the house encouraging women and making it easy for them. So when a man says, hey, we have an equal role sharing in my house, I read the paper and drink the tea, and she makes the tea. It may be a joke, but the fact is, why is there not more role sharing in our country? Why is it a norm that the women have to get up, however educated you are, however successful you are the one who's the dog's body in the house. Whether you're in a tier 2, whether you're in a tier 3, whether you're living in the high rises of Bombay. the genuine fact is that role sharing is a thing of a very, very few people in this country.
So let me talk to Deepali ji on that. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
but I believe that that role sharing concept has to come from the woman, the homemaker, the mother, the grandmother, and I think it's if we are giving that discrimination between the male and the female, it begins with us. Like Yusuf said in the earlier panel, the first 1,000 days are taken care of by the mother, who is a woman, and I think that is the time when you can, teach the baby that you're equal. Even if you're a male, you're equal to the girls in the family.
So Deepaji, you rightly said, but one thing I would ask you, you have dominated the business, especially the exports, and took it to the next level in your mantra fashion, mantra export, and that is one area where women are not excelling much. Even at my place, I see my daughter. She's an architect, urban designer, but when she goes with her colleagues, she says that whenever there is this hard talk about structure and architecture is coming, they always talk to the male guys. And when it is come, painting kahan lagana hai, interiors kaise karna hai, parde kaise lagne, they suddenly start talking to me. Whereas both are equal urban designers. So that is always in their mindset that ye decoration wala kaam, the daughter will do better. So you have led such a big business, exports basically, with your so much of passion, and so we would like to know how did you do it?
I fought my way to the top, if I have to put it very bluntly.
You can elaborate.
I started in the export business in 78, I mean that's all 48 years ago. And in those days there were not many working women. So having a job and working itself was something people looked in awe and said, oh, you're working. And then as I came up the ladder and I started traveling as a merchandiser, there was within the community, within the family, whispers about, oh, you're a jet set traveler, jet set executive. And I used to think to myself, just because I'm going and selling to Europe or to the US, I'm carrying 50, 60 kilos of baggage, I'm just a glorified salesperson. Where is the glorification coming in? Is it because I'm doing travel, or is it because I'm selling to foreigners and not to Indians? So that's where that mindset, where we always as a country think something's always better. And in my company, I always give priority. If all things being equal, though we call ourselves an equal opportunity company, my partner tells me, no, we are not equal opportunity because you give priority to women. All things being equal, you would give a woman a job. So I said, why not? They don't take time off for cigarette smoking breaks or tea breaks. They're there, they're working all the time. And I know that a woman's output is definitely more than a man's, given your 9 to 6 working hours. He had a different story to tell me. I said, why do you not want to work with women? And he said, प्यार से बात करो तो they think you're flirting. चिल्लाओ तो रोने लगते हैं. What are we supposed to do? So they also have their own point of view, and they said, okay, fine, you have your point of view, but I still think women output is better. And then they talked about GDP. Why aren't you measuring the GDP of a homemaker? She's creating the next generation. She's equally responsible for the values that are being laid for the children in the house. And that's what we are talking about for your 2047. And the girls, the new mothers of today should be laying those foundations of equality with their children for 2047.
Great. Nisha, you have paved your way over the period, and I've seen your journey. I've met you multiple times. You have created a place for you. There is a place for you, and I'm sure you have created it yourself. It's all your hard work, your sweat, and your passion. So we would like to know about your journey. How did you create this space for you, and what made you create this space for you?
My mother actually gave up her career because my father didn't allow her to work. Back then, like she just said, if you work, they said, काम करने की ज़रूरत क्या है? So it was always about, I mean, if you worked, you were looked at as a lesser person, that you had some majburi, that's why you were working. And my mother was is a very, very highly educated woman, a scholar from St. Xavier's College, Bombay Scottish, Tata Institute. So she actually instilled those values and the respect for work. And I grew up with a very clear idea that I would have to pave a way for myself and not piggyback on any father, uncle, husband. To this day, I never ever cite my husband's designation or his work to get ahead in life. And if you were to ask me, was it easy? I'd say no, it wasn't. There were a lot of sacrifices, a lot of burning the midnight oil. For instance, in order to make this panel today, which was a sudden inclusion, I had to stay up till 3 in the morning to finish my column, which is filed this morning, in order to be sitting here, because Friday morning is when I write my column. So everything that you actually achieve is not a cakewalk. Also, women, do you know what is the one malaise a woman suffers from? The biggest malaise, and this is a statistic. It's guilt. When you leave your child, when you leave your husband, when you are not doing something you feel that you have to do and is your sole responsibility. To get over guilt, to get over, that feeling that, hey, everything rests on my shoulders, I think is a woman's greatest triumph, to get over that. So that also is a very big thing in a woman's journey. Over and above that, if Megha, you were to ask me one game changer in my life, and one thing that would change every woman's life going forward is being an eternal learner. I mean, we are living in the times of artificial intelligence. To be able to pick up on every new skill. One of the pegs which was changed last minute was skilling. One of the things we were to discuss. And I'd say you continue skilling yourself in life. You never rest on your laurels. And it's called hubris, to have that that, hey, I'm so great, I'm so famous. That is the beginning of the end. And if you read Thomas Hardy, you will see that is when a person actually goes through his downfall. And that is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. That the moment you have that hubris, the moment you think that I'm the greatest, is the beginning of the end. So to continue to learn, to continue to study, to continue to listen, even if it's to the cook in your house, if he says, aise nahi karte, aise karte hain, you don't turn around and say, hey, do you know who you're speaking to? So you have to, that humility, that is the pivot of the Bhagavad Gita. And lastly, I feel being a mentoring, growing, taking people with you. My philosophy of my company is when you lift others, you rise. Do you know who make the worst bosses for women? It's a statistic. It's women. Women have the malaise of competitiveness, envy. We need more bosses like Deepa, who actually want to encourage and want to lift women and bring women, because she went through that hardship. She wants women to, it's inclusiveness of women to women. Women can be very, very competitive. I have faced it. ये कहाँ से आई है? ये तो कोई टाटा बिरला है ही नहीं. अपने आप को क्या समझती है? Why is she wearing a hat? Who does she think she is? So that kind of prejudice which a famous, popular, or a woman who's well turned out goes through, everyone feels, you go through that prejudice. I had to write a letter in midday to say, hey, because I wear heels, lipstick, and I'm well turned out, doesn't mean I'm a bimbette. I'm the first woman to win the American Women in Architecture Scholarship in America. And I've worked bloody hard to look good and to be presentable. That should not go against a person. That is also a prejudice, that hey, just because you're not wearing khadi and chappals, you're a fool. You're a bimbette, you don't know anything. She can't be on a panel. She's a page 3 person. That's also a prejudice, So fighting all that, making a place for myself in the world of Bombay, being an absolute newcomer who no one knew, and everyone wanted to contextualize. Who's your father? What does your husband do? How does it matter? What matters is I'm working hard, I'm educated. And so Megha, it takes, it takes a lot of sacrifice, a lot of reproving and proving to actually reach somewhere in the world, and I think a lot of my female peers face that. And I think the adage or the slogan is, women for women, and when you lift others, you rise yourself.
Lovely, lovely. So last point, Deepaji, for you. You have almost put your hands in any industry I think of, right? From Bisleri to NBFC to fashion to export, media, you produce films. What's next?
I haven't really thought of it because at the moment my hands are full with the NBFC. I have talked to you about my reasons for opening the NBFC is to reach out to the underprivileged in tier 2, tier 3 and the villages, working with small businesses. The Mantra Foundation is working with them for financial literacy, educating them, training them, telling them how funds should be handled, and where their Mantra Capital steps in to fund them. But I really haven't thought about what next.
You already have so much.
Yes, I do have a lot on my plate, but hopefully I'll get this out.
So the point she said that
one thing
you're
I just
always a
want,
learner.
one thing I just want to mention, going back to what I said about parents and mothers playing an important role. When she talked about her mother, I felt guilty about not having mentioned it. My mother didn't come from a very wealthy family. In fact, her father passed away when she was very young. And her elder sister married into a family which was with the ICS. This is during the British days. And her brother-in-law told my aunt that bring your sister here. So she grew up in Delhi. She finished her schooling in Mangalore, went to Delhi. He made her go through her education. And then she worked with the British Indian Army. And I said, what on earth did you do there, ma? And she spoke like the British and said, oh, those Tommies used to come. I used to find it very strange. I mean, me in the 70s and 80s to hear my mother talk about the Tommies, which we only saw in films, in the war movies of those days. And she said, much later she told me, she said, people think you're doing a great job, but I think I was a trailblazer, pathfinder, because I was the only woman employee in a staff of 500. And she picked out a picture of when she resigned her job and moved to Bombay. And she said, this is me and this is my boss, Lieutenant Colonel Bemis, with all the employees with her. And I thought to myself, I'm so privileged to have had a mother who had such liberated thinking that she said, I don't think anything should stop you. To go out there and do whatever you need to do. Thank you, Nisha, for bringing it back to me.
It was nice having you here. Maybe last 1 or 2 minutes you can put your special thoughts in mind. And we, post lunch, we have some lovely sessions out ahead. One of the sessions we would be talking about Indian heritage and craft and architecture and sustainability, and Ruchi is out there for that. We also have another panel on with Utkarsha and Pramod. So maybe last thought and then we can take a small break. We would also love all the dignitaries present here to please sign on the board and pledge for the Women's Safety and Security Kutumba Rail Padamse Foundation and this pledge for Mother Earth as a thumb to make that tree grow before we leave the World Trade Center. So maybe last quote from you on
Nisha needs to.
My last thought would be that I actually want to second what she said, Deepa said, that a mother is actually the person who brings up a son. So unless the mother brings a change in the way a son is brought up, and we stop becoming a country where the mother says, oh, he should go to Harvard, she can go to a polytechnic and do fashion design. Unless we understand that a woman needs that opportunity of education and a girl is actually, I'm sorry to be prejudiced, but I know from my own experience that women actually are much more there for their fathers and mothers in their senior years than men who just go away, because during COVID, there was this guy in Texas. I was trying to save this woman who had COVID, and she said, "Nisha ji, she's 80. Ab kya karna?" So I paid for her hospitalization and for her to save her life. So he was happily in Texas living with his wife. Women actually end up looking after their parents. Women are stronger. Women are more loyal to their families. And I don't mean it as a prejudice. I've actually seen it. So for a mother to give an equal opportunity to the daughter as much as to the son in education is going to be a game changer in this country. And to have more women as exemplars and trailblazers who will lift other women is what's going to be bringing the change in what Yusuf asked us about 2047.
Thank you. Would you like to say something?
No, I think I've said, and Nisha has summarized
Yes,
most of
yes.
it. Thank you.
Thank you for being a lovely audience.
Great.